Welcome to the Christian Mental Health Advocate Podcast, hosted by comedian The Whole Shebang Rich Jones. For the next few moments, let this be your safe space. Here's your host, The Whole Shebang Rich Jones.
Hallelujah, hear them sing. Angels laughing on golden wings. Every gig's the whole shebang. Rich Jones sure knows how to bang.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in. This is the Christian Mental Health Advocate Podcast, and I am the whole shebang, Rich Jones. If you guys are ever wondering how I got that name, I was hanging out with a lot of pro wrestlers at the time, and I thought maybe I should have a name too, whatever. And every gig's the whole shebang, because Rich Jones sure knows how to bang, whatever. I love that song, and thank you guys again for tuning in. Today's podcast is called Say More by Talking Less, and that sounds like a contradiction, doesn't it? Like a paradox, but actually we can say more by talking less, and I think we should address this issue. There's power in listening. Some people might come up to you and say, hey man, you're a good friend and all that, and I read this in How to Win Friends and Influence People. But if you listen to people sometimes and you ask them questions like, oh hey, how'd that go, or what's the deal with this, oh that's cool, can you tell me more about that? And it says how you can be a better friend by just listening to people. And people will actually come out and say, hey man, that guy's an interesting guy, whatever. But I mean, really all you did was just listen to them. Years ago on eBay, there were people selling phone conversations and saying, I will listen to you, whatever. And people were paying a lot of money. I don't remember the exact figure. I don't know if people even still do that anymore. I think there's a lot more resources now, you can reach out to people and stuff, and I think more people are aware now of mental health. But at the time when there wasn't as much awareness, people were actually paying hundreds of dollars just to have somebody listen to them. It's crazy to think. I'll tell you on a side note, an even crazier story. When the PlayStation 2 came out, somebody got on eBay and they put down PlayStation 2 box with receipt, and somebody paid $1,000 for this, and all it was the box and the receipt, and the person was legit in what they listed, but the person that bought it actually didn't take the time to read the exact description and got scammed out of thousands of dollars for buying just a box and a receipt. So I mean, I guess I could parlay that and throw that into this message, but you got to know the details, and sometimes we talk over what people are trying to tell us, whatever. And so positive note, side note, make sure you look at the exact description when you buy something on eBay. So, and I should get an EUI sometimes because I eBay under the influence, which isn't drinking, it's just sometimes my head is too big for my wallet. So
ever wondered about the woman in Dave Matthews' Grey Street? She's not just a character, she's a mirror to our own struggles. Picture this: a woman once vibrant, now fading into shades of grey. She's lost her colors, her passion, her dreams. Sound familiar? It's a haunting portrait of depression and unfulfilled potential. Here's the kicker: it's not just about her, it's about all of us who've felt stuck, who've watched our dreams slip away. Listen, don't let life paint you grey. Fight for your colors, your dreams, your authenticity. It's a wake-up call, folks. Are you living in full color, or have you slipped into grey? Let's break free from our own grey streets and paint our lives with the vibrant hues we deserve. What color will you choose today?
let's reference James in the Bible, James 1:19. That speaks about how everyone should be quick to listen and slow to speak and slow to become angry. So if you listen, you can actually become angry a lot less if you know the details, and it gives you time to kind of take a deep breath in and kind of calmly digest what you've just been told. I know one of my favorite Simpsons quotes is Bart and Lisa raise the dead, because they're trying to raise their cat or whatever. It's on one of the Treehouse from Horrors. But they come running in and they're like, Dad, we did something really bad. And he goes, did you wreck the car? And they're like, no. Did you raise the dead? Yes. But the car's okay. Uh-huh. All right then. Whatever. Because that's exactly something my dad would have done, because my dad always hated paying car bills. But, I mean, he would get angry, like, whatever, sometimes if I was telling him there was something wrong with the car and whatever. And I mean, like, but I mean, he didn't listen to all the details first. But, And it's easy to get angry when you don't know everything and you just have that stress coming in your life. But you just need to take a deep breath sometimes and just be slow to react and slow to become angry. A lot of people like to listen to react, or listen to talk, listen to respond. But sometimes we just need to listen, and then we can respond. And makes it a lot easier to understand people, and it makes it a lot easier to respond with confidence. So, God calls us to listen before we speak. Like, in a world of noise, listening helps create understanding and peace. Like I said, I mean, just take a deep breath and listen. It's a struggle. Many people struggle with anxiety and depression. You know, it's like an epidemic today. Like, even I do, obviously. That's one of the reasons why I do this podcast. And as a comedian, it's funny because they're like, what comedian doesn't suffer with, like, anxiety or depression and, like, whatever? I'm like, which one doesn't? The bad ones, whatever, because they don't understand, you know? Comedy is almost like therapy, really. I mean, we get up on stage and we just talk about our problems. Sometimes we make a joke about ourselves, whatever. We can make jokes about other people too, but I try not to because I don't want to be mean-spirited. Usually I make fun of myself, but every now and then I will make fun of somebody. But actually, comedian Thor Ramsey told me that if I'm going to do that, I need to say how they might have wronged me first. Like, I started to talk about this on an earlier podcast, but I said how my ex-girlfriend was bipolar, but the good pole was broken. But he said before I do that, say how she says as a comedian, I make a great anesthesiologist, whatever. Like, crickets. I just put you to sleep. Yeah. So, but of course, I think she's bipolar, but the good pole's broken. So that's how that works. But as many of us struggle with anxiety and depression, it often becomes the opposite. Whatever sometimes we think talking more will help. We talk to people, we want to explain what's going on, but and that might be true for some people, but often it's the opposite. Like, over explaining or oversharing can lead to more confusion and more stress. People, you don't know where they are. You don't know if that person might be struggling too, and they look at you and they think, oh, look at this guy, whatever. Or maybe you're in line to get a promotion, or someone wants to offer you an opportunity, but then you say too much, and it's like, oh gosh, I just shot myself in the foot. It can happen, and whatever. Like, I had an experience where I worked yesterday where I say, you know what, next time I go in, I think I'm just going to back off and only talk to some of the ones that my coworkers that I'm more closer to, whatever. And I mean, my job, I jump around a lot, so I'm not at the same place all the time. My job when I'm not doing comedy, my mild-mannered whole shebang Rich Jones, it's just when I'm mild-mannered rich, whatever. But at that job, I try to watch what I say now. I try to just be kind of a fly on the wall, because sometimes it's more important to just listen. And then if you're looking for a promotion, I mean, obviously you want to be a good listener, or because you want to hear the issues that are going on with the people that you might be in charge of, whatever, because great leaders always listen. And anybody that is in a management position, I suggest that you do. I listen to audiobooks, but listen to Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People, or listen to something by this author named Leil Lowndes. That's Leil Lowndes, Lowndes. She's really awesome. She's got a lot of great ideas and points on how to connect with people and create chemistry, and how to make anybody fall in love with you by listening to you, or by you listening to them, and just different ways to perceive things and to act. And I mean, it's not about manipulating people, but it's just about listening, and there's some body language involved too that she talks about. But she's a really great author, and she's really kind on Facebook too. I know that makes a world of difference if the person that you're following or that you're interested in as far as their art or their craft or their insight, whatever, if they're connectable, like if they're approachable. And she's really nice. She responded to me when I sent her a kind note on Facebook. So on another note, Jesus often withdrew to quiet places to pray and to listen to the Father, and like Mark 1:35 demonstrates the importance of silence and stillness and finding peace and clarity. Like he got away from the people and he went up on the mountain and prayed. And of course, then he came back and he was walking on water and confronted Peter, and but he was ready to take Peter basically to the next level when he pulled Peter out of the water, and he gave him the lesson, like, keep your eyes on God. Don't, because Peter sunk into the water when he took his eyes off of Jesus. And I mean, I could go on another lesson tangent on that note, but I'm just saying, before that happened, Jesus was actually by himself and he withdrew. And I mean, we should follow his example sometimes. Sometimes we just need that solitude. Solitude is awesome. I don't get it as much as I used to now because I'm married and I have a kid. But, and I'm not complaining about that. I love it. But it is nice sometimes to be by yourself or just be with your pet. Because, like, your pet's always going to listen to you if you need to talk. But obviously they have no choice. But, my dog Cookie, she's good. So anyway, so what kind of strategies could we have for these individuals that are struggling with this? Well, we need to encourage creating a daily habit of sitting in silence or meditation, focusing on listening to God's voice. Pray and reflect on the scripture rather than constantly talking about your struggles. I mean, it's important to reach out to people and say what's going on, but it's also important to pray or to just get some quiet time. Read a book, listen to something, do something for yourself. Find a habit that you have, like a hobby, not necessarily a habit, but a hobby that you like to do, something that helps you relax, something that helps set off those endorphins in your head that lets you be calm and lets you be yourself a little bit. And I write letters sometimes. I'll write a letter to somebody and say something encouraging. Or people love getting snail mail. It's a lost art form, I think, writing letters, stuff. I'm talking too much, I know, but it's my podcast, so haha. But so anywho, journaling thoughts can always be a powerful tool, also to process emotions without the overwhelming need to share them like immediately. So you could write down what you are thinking, and then you can reflect on it later, whatever. And just so you know, dirty laundry goes in the basket, not on Facebook, whatever social media. You need to be careful what you post. I said something about this the other day on my Facebook page, and I always think before I post, because I'm seriously protective of my comedy brand, because all it takes is one bad post or one bad video to lose bookings. And I mean, I try to live my witness too, so obviously I'm not going to badmouth somebody. I might poke fun at somebody, but it's all in good fun, and I make sure they know it's all in good fun and that it's appropriate. But yeah, basically don't take to social media as much. I used to do that when I was really struggling, and I'd say, like, I remember posting before nobody would miss me or whatever, and I was at a low point in my life when I did that. Like, I lost my father in 2020, and it just really hurt and messed with me, whatever. But now that I'm married and I have a kid, I often, this is kind of funny, I often think about the end of Shawshank Redemption. And I mean, look at Brooks's life, the librarian. He was an old guy, but he'd been in prison for, like 30-40 years, more than half his life. And then they let him out, and he couldn't take it, and he took his life. whatever. I mean, he wanted to go back to what it was like before, whatever. And sometimes life throws changes at us, but we can't go back. We always got to be moving forward. And it's nice to reflect. I don't think when you look at the past, I think you should look at it to remember the good times and reflect. Don't ever look at it and say, hey, I want to go back. I mean, you might, and it might be fun to relive some of those times, but we can't. We have to go forward. And when Red got out of prison, I mean, he reflected and he thought to himself, man, I've been asking if I could go to the restroom for all these years or whatever, and now I realize I don't have to ask that. Crazy. But yeah, but as far as Shawshank Redemption, where I was going with that is, at the very end, Red could have done the same thing. He could have taken his life like Brooks did, because at one point he had no use for hope, because he thought he would never get out. But then when he got out, he said, I made a promise to my friend that I was going to go and look for him, whatever. And he said, I hope to see my friend and shake his hand. And he's like, I hope the Pacific is as blue as it has been in my dreams. I hope. And I think about that sometimes when I thought, I don't think I would ever take my life. I've never tried, whatever. But, you get thoughts and stuff and crazy ideas. But I think how for years I prayed that someday I would be a father. And I wanted a daughter, and I wanted to name her Alyssiana. And that happened. God answered that prayer. And when I think about how I miss my dad and how I could just be with him right now if I wanted to just end everything, whatever. But then I think to myself, I made a promise that if God would give me a daughter, that I wanted to raise her, and I wanted to raise her to come to know Christ and be that father. And I made a promise, and God answered that prayer. So, I want to be there for my daughter. I made a promise like Red did to go and look for his friend, but I made one to raise my daughter, and that's never going to happen to where I'm going to do something to myself, because I have her, and I live for God. He's the main one I live for, but I also live for her, and she's the greatest thing I've ever done in my life, aside from accepting Christ as my Savior. She's the greatest thing I've ever done. So, also, if you're offering support to others, you can empathize with them, and you can emphasize the importance of listening more than giving advice. Sometimes just being present is enough. I mean, we need to be there for people. They need to know we care. They need to know that they matter to us. They matter to God, but they also matter to us, and that's what they emphasize a lot at my church, and that's one of the things that made me feel drawn to go there. Job's friends in Job 2:13, they sat with him in silence for 7 days before speaking, and their initial presence without words demonstrated their true support. Although some of them, they didn't know what was going on, and they were like, why don't you curse God? Why is all this? But Job trusted the Lord. But the fact that they were there showed that they really cared. They just didn't know what was going on. So, and now I just kind of like to talk about there's wisdom in the silent words. Proverbs 17:27-28. The one who has knowledge uses words with restraint, and whoever has understanding is even-tempered. Even fools are thought wise if they keep silent, and discerning if they hold their tongues. Yeah, watch what you say. I had a teacher one time, and I don't know, I wasn't the easiest student to get along with, but I had a teacher one time tell me she didn't care whether or not I passed or failed as long as she got a paycheck. And I think I've told this story about how my dad stood up for me against her, but I don't know if I told this story, but it was the funniest day, the day I went in there and she had to hand me the plans to sub. So I kind of I didn't say anything about that. I just said, oh, I had her, and she was when I was in the office, because she happened to walk by, I was like, I used to go here. Oh, and I had Miss so-and-so, and they're like, of course she responded shows you how darn long I've been here, whatever. But you need to watch what you say. You need to hold restraint back. Sometimes you could say something, but you shouldn't. And it's funny how wise I think my grandma was when she would say, like, if you can't say nothing, don't say anything at all, whatever. It was so true. Dale Carnegie in How to Win Friends and Influence People says that basically we should never insult people if we can help it. Should never say anything bad about somebody, even when it's easy to. But it's a struggle sometimes. I mean, it's easy to speak out of emotion, especially if it's like if there's a stressful or a painful situation. But Proverbs teaches us that often silence can be greater, and it can be a greater form of wisdom. It's wise to be silent sometimes. I saw the quote on Facebook I really liked, and I had a situation where somebody called me out in my work, whatever, in front of other people. I work in education. They called me out in front of students, and I went out in the hallway and I calmly said, hey, if there's an issue, can you please pull me aside and let's talk about it? And they kind of lashed out at me about whatever. And I mean, maybe they were having a bad day. I don't know. But I didn't raise my voice. And I didn't say anything about it. But I did have to document it. And I was a little bit upset. But in my letter to the principal, I wrote how silence is confident. I said insecurities are loud. Whatever. And I got that quote off Facebook somewhere. But it's true. If you're silent, you're confident. But if you're loud, you're insecure about yourself. Yeah, it is easy to speak out of emotion. Jesus' words were often few, but they were powerful. And like in John 8:7, when Jesus confronted those accusing the woman who was caught in adultery, his silence before responding led to a transformative moment. It was like, he who is without sin, let them throw the first stone. And of course none of them were, so nobody could throw no stone. And I got no stone to throw. When I see people that are struggling, who am I? Who are you? So we need to encourage practicing silence in moments of emotional turmoil, like especially if you're dealing with somebody who might be struggling. And instead of speaking from a place of hurt, take a step back, pray, and reflect a little bit. Sometimes less is more in finding clarity. It's easier to understand things when you have time to think about it. And I know some people want to address the issue. Oh no, we got to talk about it right now. And sometimes though, it's easy to just step back for a minute and let everything kind of digest or whatever. And people who are those type of people that say like, no, you can't walk away. We got to talk about this now. I know that happens a lot in relationships and everything. And like sometimes if my wife and I are upset about something, I'll just hold her for a minute and I'll say, okay, so let's calm down and let's talk about this, whatever. And I think that works out so much better than just saying, oh, how could you do this? Like, are you dumb? Whatever. No, we don't do that. Just take a moment, take a deep breath, and let everything just digest. So, speak less and listen more when offering advice. Encourage people to ask open-ended questions. I'm basically encouraging you to ask open-ended questions, and instead of providing immediate solutions. This allows you and the other person to feel heard and valued. Just let them talk. Sometimes that's what they need. And you don't need to offer advice until you know the whole story, because then you sound stupid. Like, oh, well, maybe you need to do this. Whatever. Oh, I haven't even told you about this yet. Oh, okay, well, and then you give another, well, maybe do this. Oh, I didn't even tell you about that. Whatever. So, well, let's talk about the impact of silence in relationships. Proverbs 15:1, a gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. The right words at the right time can heal, but harsh words often create more problems. This verse actually encourages us to be intentional in what we say, and sometimes that means saying less. I actually sometimes on Facebook, people will unfriend you, or maybe you'll have to unfriend them because they say they act out of emotion and stuff, and people that like you might have been friends with for years, just one little thing can make them want to unfriend you, or you unfriend them. And sometimes you have to. I mean, sometimes it's easier to do it. Sometimes, and I've said this before, sometimes we outgrow people, and sometimes they outgrow us. But that's okay. Whatever. I mean, the Michael W. Smith had that famous song, "Friends are friends forever, if the Lord's the Lord of them." Whatever. But I've kind of updated that song a little bit for this generation, and this is the Facebook version I'd like for you to hear, and this is by the band Not Far Chums, and let's take a listen to that here.
Hey, you poked me too much. I don't like that very much. I didn't like your cat pic page that sent you in a rage, but it's okay. And friends are friends forever if the Lord's the Lord of them. And a friend will still be there even if I hit unfriend. It was hard to let you go, but in the Father's hands we know that Facebook's not forever and we're still friends. I saw an event you're interested in. Oh, where should I begin? You made another GoFundMe page to fund the ones you already made. I see suggested friends, and there you are again. Political season, oh no, here we go. But we'll keep you close as always. And friends are friends forever if the Lord's the Lord of them. And a friend will still be there even if I hit unfriend. It was hard to let you go, but in the Father's hands we know that Facebook's not forever and we're still friends. Friends are friends forever if the Lord's the Lord of them. And a friend will still be there even if I hit unfriend. It was hard to let you go, but in the Father's hands we know that Facebook's not forever and we're still friends. I love you, man.
Feeling stressed about money? You're not alone, but taking control of your finances can boost your mental health. Start by tracking your spending for a financial reality check. Create a budget with some fun money, set up automatic savings, and tackle debt. Each payment is a step towards freedom. Celebrate those money wins, no matter how small. Financial wellness isn't about being rich, it's about feeling in control. Take that first step today, and your future self and stress levels will thank you.
Feeling lost or struggling with life's challenges? Discover Creation Therapy, a unique approach that combines faith and psychology to help you find your true self. This counseling method sees you as a masterpiece created with purpose and worth. It blends biblical wisdom with psychological insights, offering a path to healing, meaning, and personal transformation. If you're seeking a faith-centered solution to emotional or mental health issues, Creation Therapy could be your answer. Curious to learn more? Let's discuss in the comments.
So yeah, even if I hit unfriend, that doesn't mean we're still not friends, because Facebook's not forever. So I believe that. I believe there will be a lot of people in heaven that I'll see and I'll be like, hey, remember when we unfriended? Oh, let's forget about that. Let's move on. Let's move on to eternity, okay? Whatever, and that'll be awesome. So, but there are tense moments. It's easy to respond in anger or frustration. but the Bible encourages us to a gentler approach. Speaking less with kindness can open the door to reconciliation. Back, folks, and I would encourage you guys to check out Creation Therapy. I'm actually certified in Creation Therapy from the Sarasota Academy of Christian Counseling. You can look up some stuff on them. And it's just a approach that kind of sees you as a whole thing. It sees you as a created being, created by God, and just the way He kind of wired us when we were born. He didn't create us to sin, but He did create our personality, and we react different ways, and there's different things we need to consider. And I'm going to be doing a whole episode on that here in the near future, but I wanted to get back to this talking less and listening more. One of our ways we get some insight on that is we reflect on Jesus' interactions with others. He was not afraid to speak truth, but when he did so, he did it in love, and he often in a way that invited change rather than condemnation. So for a strategy for us, for individuals who are struggling, is create a space for emotional healing, create space, and through prayer and silence, particularly in relationships, practice offering gentle responses instead of reacting impulsively. Focus on being slow to speak and quick to listen. Always think twice before you post. I say that all the time, but I can't emphasize it enough. And we can help others too. When helping somebody navigate difficult relationships, we need to encourage them to give space and allow for silence. Sometimes silence allows wounds to heal and prevents further damage. I say this all the time, but time doesn't heal all wounds, forgiveness does. And we need to practice that a lot more. But sometimes you need to give people a chance to digest things and just to realize what happened. So let's give some practical tips for saying more and talking less. I've got some scripture references. Ecclesiastes 3:7, a time to tear and a time to mend, a time to be silent and a time to speak. There's a time for everything under heaven, and that's where that comes from. It was written by Solomon the king. He's the wisest man to ever live other than Jesus. And he said there's a time for silence and a time for speaking. Christians must discern when to use their words and when to remain silent for a greater good. You can be wrong, you can be right and still be wrong. Whatever. Sometimes it's the way you. And I've heard people say this. It's not what you say. It's how you say it, and everything. And I mean, you can be right, whatever. But sometimes when you're right, you're wrong because you say it the wrong way. The struggle, knowing when to speak can be difficult, but it's also crucial for building healthy relationships, especially in the context of mental health struggles. So some practical tips. We need to set boundaries in conversations. Encourage people to set a time limit on emotional venting or overly delayed conversations to avoid burnout. It can be hard sometimes. I mean, even like in The Sopranos, you probably saw Dr. Melfi actually saw a therapist after she herself was counseling Tony Soprano. That's crazy to think, but that's actually true. A lot of mental health professionals go to people for their own mental health issues. So, like for me myself, I don't see a counselor, but I do take medication that's prescribed and everything. But I take it exactly as prescribed, and I do talk to other people, but I don't see a counselor. And I wanted to bring this up, but I mentioned the other day, I gave a testimony at my church to the youth, but I also talked about how I had a counselor that told me that everybody hated their job and there was no getting around it and everything. And it hurt me when she said that, because she was asking me what I wanted to do, and I said I wanted to do something I enjoyed. And when she said that I was just like, I was thought to myself, wait a minute, you're counseling me and you hate your job, so why should I trust anything you say? Why should I listen? And it's funny because I saw that, and I looked her up on, I think I gave her a bad rating on Rate My Doctor, but I looked her up the other day after I gave that testimony just to see if she was still counseling, and I saw that she actually had passed away in 2023, and she was in hospice for a while, that doesn't make me happy. I mean, sad. And like, when I looked back at my doctor thing, I saw there were so many other people that said things about her that were negative. Somebody said that they thought she was more damaged than they were, and somebody said she was more materialistic than they expected, and everything. And it's sad. And I looked at her obituary and I was thinking, man, that's a sad thing to go through life and think that you hate what you do. And that's one of the reasons I suggest creation therapy, because it might help you understand yourself better and what your passions are and what you might like to do. But just the fact that she went through life and passed away thinking that everybody hated their job, that's a sad thing. So also practice reflective listening. When helping someone else, repeat what they said to ensure understanding without offering an immediate solution. And I hate it when reporters do this, like especially on the left, when they'll say, so what you're saying is whatever. I'm like, no, that's not what they're saying. Listen. And it's not, and sometimes maybe they do it on the right too. I don't know. I don't really notice it as much, but so what you're saying, and reporters like to trap people in things, whatever. I know they do it to Jordan Peterson a lot, who's one of my favorite authors. But they'll say, so what you're saying is that all women should do this or whatever. And he's like, no. And it's funny because he always repeats the question. What I'm saying is whatever. And he doesn't agree. He responds with, no, this is what I'm saying. And if you're ever in a situation where you're trapped by that, you need to clarify exactly what you're saying. But as far as helping people, it's important to ask what they're saying, or respond like, is this what you're saying, kind of to make sure you understand them clearly. Use prayerful pauses. When struggling to know when to speak, pause, pray, and ask God for wisdom in the moment. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with praying throughout the day, just little prayers. I was driving to DoorDash someone the other day, and I saw they were a single mother, whatever. I mean, I think I kind of assumed it, because she was wanting a lot of things to take care of, like her child and everything. And it just, I don't know, I just got an intuition, whatever, and I believe she was. But I just prayed, and I asked God to send somebody to witness to her if she didn't know Him, and draw her near, whatever. And like I said, whenever you pray, that prayer should bless you as well, because you're relying on God more. I can get into that another time again, but I do want to emphasize little prayers throughout the day. Just you're walking with God. It doesn't take long. Just make Him your best friend. He is your best friend, but make Him your best friend. So use prayerful pauses. Nonverbal communication. Sometimes actions speak louder than words. A hug, a shared moment of silence, or even just a comforting touch can convey love and understanding. I saw a friend yesterday. I hadn't seen him in forever, and I just let him know how much he meant to me and everything. And when we were getting ready to leave, he was going to shake my hand. I gave him a hug. Probably wasn't expecting it, but he's a cool guy. And actually, it's funny because I used to joke about him all the time, because his name's Noah, and I used to be like, hey Noah, how many animals did Moses take on the ark? And he's like, wasn't it like 2 of everything? I'm like, haha, it was Noah, ha ha ha, whatever. But I do a joke in my comedy. I'm like, I was friends with this guy named Noah. That kid hated me because I always used to ask him how many animals Moses took on the ark. Whatever. He didn't hate me. But anyway, I just kind of want to wrap things up, like a few key points. Saying more and talking less allows us to listen, reflect, and be present in a way that truly honors God, and it helps others. Silence can be a powerful tool in our mental health journey, as well as in our efforts to support others. It's important. So thank you guys for tuning in. I always appreciate your guys' support, and if you want to share this, I would love that. If you want to share this with somebody who might be struggling with mental health, there is hope. I do comedy. You can always visit my website, richjonescomedy.com. And Christian Mental Health Advocate, we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube. Subscribe to the podcast, share it with your friends. and come to some of my shows. I'd love to talk to you. I'd love to encourage you, and I'm sure I'll be a lot more funnier too. So I'd just like to pray and end this, and then we're going to end with a song called No Weapon Formed Against Me by, I believe it's Wind Raider. Yeah. So thank you guys, and God bless you. Lord, thank you for this time, and I just pray that you would bless this listener, Lord, and bless those who are struggling, and pray that you would help us, give us discernment in what we say and what we listen to, and help us to listen to those, Lord, and speak louder than to just jabber, Lord, and try to make ourselves sound better. Thank you, and I just ask that you would bless the listener again, Lord, and thank you so much for the cross. In your name we pray, amen.
In the valley, in the fire I stand. I've got a shield and a mighty hand. Though the storms may rage and the darkness fall, I know I'll rise, I will stand tall. No weapon formed against me will prevail. I'm walking with a power that will never fail. Every lie they speak, I'll just turn away, 'cause I'm covered by grace and I'm here to stay. No weapon will prosper. I'm lifted higher, I am stronger. The voice of truth is my defender. No weapon form will ever harm me, never, no. I'm walking free, I'm standing whole. I've got the strength to break every hole. No weapon will prosper. I'm in his hands forevermore. I've been broken, I've been torn apart, but I'm healed, I've got a brand new heart. In the battle, I'll stand firm and true, 'cause I know my God will pull me through. No weapon formed against me will prevail. I'm walking with a power that will never fail. Every lie they speak, I'll just turn away, 'cause I'm covered by grace and I'm here to stay. No weapon will prosper. I'm lifted higher, I am stronger. The voice of truth is my defender. No weapon form will ever harm me, never, no. I'm walking free, I'm standing whole. I've got the strength to break every hole. No weapon will prosper. I'm in his hands forevermore. I will rise above the fight, with the King of Kings on my side. Every battle has been won, I will see the victory come. No weapon will prosper. I'm lifted higher, I am stronger. The voice of truth is my defender. No weapon form will ever harm me, never, no. I'm walking free, I'm standing whole. I've got the strength to break every hole. No weapon will prosper. I'm in his hands forevermore. No weapon will prosper. I am safe, I am free. In his love I'm secure. No weapon will harm me.
Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to visit richjonescomedy.com and check out the whole shebang. Rich Jones on Facebook and YouTube. Also check out Christian Mental Health Advocate on Facebook and YouTube to learn more.